your host, nationally acclaimed speaker and author, Debbie Georgatos. Ladies, Can We Talk starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. I'm so glad you've tuned in tonight. For the next 2 hours on Ladies Can We Talk, we're going to be talking about issues shaping America, shaping America's future. And of course, all of you paying attention to the news are tuned in to two of the biggest stories, which will probably really involve most of our discussion tonight. The first being not just the Islamic terrorist bombing in Paris, but and the multi-faceted attack in Paris on Friday, but the bigger also picture of just what that means in terms of where we stand in America, in the Western world, in our safety, what we're going to do about that. And we have a brilliant, truly one of the nation's leading experts on Islamic terrorism calling in to join us at 6:15. Her name is Claire Lopez. She's been on the show, I think, twice before. She's a former CIA operations officer. She teaches terrorism, protection against terrorism, and strategy at the FBI's Quantico. She's on the board of the Center for Security Policy. She is especially well-trained and well-versed and an expert in Islamic terrorism in the Middle East. So she's going to join us at 6:15. She will be a fount of knowledge, I'm quite sure. In the second hour tonight, along with my leading ladies who are joining me tonight, Chris Davis and Lori Medina. We're going to start off the second hour with I started this thing in this show. I called it Talking to the Talkers. It's having other radio hosts join us for one segment. Well, this week it's actually going to be a blogger joining us for a segment. Her name is Meryl Hope, and if you've read her work at all, she's just a fabulous researcher and writer, investigative reporter, blogger, and she writes for Breitbart. And Meryl's going to talk with us not just about what happened in a university in Missouri this past week, or Mizzou as that school is called, but really the larger the reason how we got to the place you could have something happen like that at a university in America, the spreading million-student march, the demands of that group, and really what it says about America's education system and our political and cultural environment, our educational environment. So it's going to be a show really rich with substance and topics. And as I've said many, many times in the show, my entire goal in doing this radio show and in writing my book, Ladies Can We Talk, and in speaking in all the places I go speak all the time, is the idea that America is actually run by its own citizens. We, the people, we run this country. It is vitally important that here in America, the people who love this country, who love liberty, who actually appreciate the greatness of America, that we take charge of this culture, of this society, that we spread on, we pass on to the next generation the reasons America is great, because America's greatness, many of the fundamental elements that make America great, is all under siege in America right now. And so I try on the show not just to talk about current events or political issues, but to tie them to the bigger picture of why is America great and how are we going to preserve it given the challenges we face. Well, right now I want to turn in this Speak Up for America segment, this first segment of the show, I want to turn and just talk about what happened in Paris as it ties into the presidential race from 2016. And here is a quick summary or story I want to tell you. Just this past week, in fact, driving out to the studio tonight, we're realizing so much has happened since the GOP presidential debate this past Tuesday that we weren't sure if it was this past Tuesday or was it week before that. Truly, we couldn't remember because so much has happened. But the GOP presidential debate happened. The Democrat presidential debate happened last night. And one of the issues, and then in between that, of course, the just horrific terrorist attack by Muslim extremists happened in Paris, and with tremendous loss of life and tremendous injuries, horrible, horrible things. And in the Democrat debate, there was a question because the debate happened last night after the Paris attack. The topic turned to Islamic terrorism, and the three candidates were asked, where do you stand on this question of Syrian refugees coming to America? Where do you stand on that? What do you think we should still, as President Obama has proposed, bring in up to 65,000 Syrian, and they're nearly all Muslim refugees. All three Democrat candidates said, yes, we have to bring more. They were competing with themselves about who could say they were the most brave and noble and bring more Syrian refugees here. The Democrats are all behind and standing up for the idea of bringing more and more refugees here. The Republicans are speaking up and saying, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Who exactly are we bringing to this country? And what it really boils down to is this. America's a good, noble place. We have, and historically, of course, taken people in from other countries, especially people who are refugees, who are facing repression, persecution, as people are in the Middle East. And America has that culture of goodness and caring and taking care of each other. But the question for all of us is, don't we have some obligation to protect America? And how do we do that protection of America if we're bringing people here who are from countries, majority Muslim countries, and really do we dare identify Islam itself as a potential danger, and perhaps, as many people are suggesting, stop bringing Islamic or Muslim refugees here to America until we at least figure out who they are. So in fact, in the same day as this attack, earlier that day, the president announced that he was speeding up and increasing the number of Syrian refugees he planned to bring to this country. So I really want to focus just one moment on this idea, in fact, more than one moment. People who studied Islam, people who are not Muslims, but they've studied Islam, they've studied the impact of Islam in the world, often will warn us that the very nature of Islam itself teaches jihad. Islam teaches its followers to be violent. And of course, many people in the world will, when we look at attacks like Paris on the American left, the President Obama and other leftists will say they won't even identify the attackers as Muslim or as the Islamic extremists. They'll just try to call them extremists. They try to say there's no connection between the violence we're seeing in Paris and all over the world on such a regular basis it barely makes the news sometimes, and Islam itself. They want to say, no, these people are perverting Islam. So I want to just share with you, and I will put this link up on the Ladies Can We Talk Facebook page, and I'll put it on our website. I'm going to share with you some quotes of current Islamic leaders around the world, because when conservatives try to say we need to stop bringing Muslims to America until we know who they are, what they believe, and how they will act, we get the media, the American left, the academia piling on, calling us Islamophobic and racist and intolerant. I'm holding in my hands a document I printed out today. It's a list with references, with citations. You can go right to the original source of quote after quote after quote after quote, dozens and dozens of Islamic leaders around the world. I'm just going to read you a few of them. And they all are essentially saying, Islam, to be a good Muslim, you are required to commit jihad. You're required to go out and seek out and kill infidels, force them to convert or kill them. You are required to spread Islam around the world. Okay, here's one. A gentleman named Ali Goma. He's the Grand Mufti of Egypt, the highest Muslim religious authority in the world, supports murdering non-Muslims. He wrote in the Daily Al-Aram, Muslims must kill non-believers wherever they are unless they convert to Islam. Muhammad Saeed Al-Tantawi, president of the Al-Azhar University, the most prominent and authoritative institute of Islamic jurisprudence in the world, also approves of killing and maiming Christians, Jews, and other infidels. He said, "This is not my personal view. This is what the Sharia law says, the law of Allah, the only valid law on the earth." Another person, Saeed Abdul Allah Maudidi, founder of the Pakistani political party Jamaat-e-Islami, said, non-Muslims, and you need to understand, these are leaders in Islamic thought around the world. This gentleman said, non-Muslims have absolutely no right to seize the reins of power in any part of God's earth, nor to direct the collective affairs of human beings according to their own misconceived doctrines. If they do, the believers, the Muslims, will be under an obligation to do their utmost to dislodge them from their political power and make them live in subservience to the Islamic way of life. And ladies and gentlemen, I could read dozens more. These are leaders in major universities, Islamic universities, leaders in the Islamic countries around the world, Supreme Court justices in Islamic countries around the world. I'm saying all this to say that regardless of whether we in America would like to say that we want to be tolerant, want to have religious diversity. It is Islam itself that teaches jihad. So even in America, we have Muslims in every state in the country. We have people who've moved here who practice Islam, who are followers of Islam, and what we don't know is what's actually taught in their mosques. We do know what's taught in the mosques in Islamic countries around the world. So right now, the question in America, and this year, 2015, heading into 2016, should we as America accept whatever the final number is going to be? In fact, the number that is now being put out is, by the end of 2016, have 100,000 more Muslim refugees from Syria come to America. I mean, this, as Ted Cruz said, this is lunacy. There's lunacy that we would think of bringing these people here. We don't know what they believe. We do know they're from countries and universities and governments and countries where Islam is predominant, where Islam is taught, and where what they are told are the kinds of things I just read to you. We are the keepers, the guardians of this republic. We need to decide at a minimum that we are not going to bring any more Muslims to America until through this refugee process or through the more long-standing the refugee resettlement program. In both cases, our duty, and frankly, the government's duty, is to protect the American people. And, with respect to radical Islam and terrorist attacks, it doesn't take an army of 100,000 people. It doesn't take, whole cities. It takes a small number of people working together to create a horrific attack. In Paris, it was, 6 or 8 terrorists. It was 8 terrorists and 6 attacks, I think. I mean, they had some help for it, but the point is, terrible, evil destruction can be done with a small number of people, and America has the right to say no to bring any more refugees to America. And truly, if you don't like what happened in Paris, if you're upset by it, you need to get clear on this, and you may be able to say this and repeat this as a talking point to your friends. If you don't like what happened in Paris, you need to stop voting for people who don't agree that Islam is a problem, for people who cannot say on a national stage, in a national debate, in their speeches, Islam is a problem, radical Islam is the problem. We are going to stop those people from coming here. We have tiptoeing around, pussyfooting, weak-kneed speeches by the American left, all 3 presidential candidates on stage debating who want to be president. On the Democrat side, all saying, sure, bring more. What the heck? Bring more. This is antithetical to freedom. It's antithetical to our country. It is disastrous. And you are the guardians of this republic. Your job is to make sure that no one who thinks like that becomes president of this country. Okay, this is my Speak Up for America moment. It went a little bit long. We're going to tune in after the break and talk to Claire Lopez. She is a fount of knowledge, and just can't wait to have her on. And so stay tuned and come back after our break. This is Debbie Georgatos. Ladies, Can We Talk on 660 AM The Answer. We're going to keep on talking about what's happening, what the Paris attacks mean for the future safety of America. Come on back after our break.